The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions.
You said I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
Look, I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
I didn't know you meant that, Donald Trump.
Jimmy Kimmel exposed J.D. Vance on live TV by doing what Kimmel does best. He turned noise into receipts. He turned swagger into a side-by-side. And he turned a campaign character into a person with a record.
Was appointed chairman of the FCC by this former crusader for free speech.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down.
That was also in 2022, and I wonder, how did that guy turn into this guy?
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
A lot of people, anybody could replace him. The guy had no talent. Kimmel look, he was fired, he had no talent. He's a whack job, but he had no talent, and more importantly than talent, he had no, because a lot of people have no talent.
If you remember the exact Kimmel line that made you spit out your drink during the VP debate week, drop it in the comments and tell me the timestamp, because the edit we are building from this needs every punch that landed. Subscribe now if you support Jimmy Kimmel and like this video. Here is the simple spine of the story.
Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance is now pushing a bizarre conspiracy theory that is taking the right by storm. Tonight, CNN's Tom Foreman has fact-checked this claim about Haitian immigrants abducting and eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. Tom?
Trump's own running mate, J.D. Vance, is the main source of this nonsense. He's been talking about this in speeches. He's been posting about this as much as he can. The city of Springfield, in his state, Ohio, says there have been no credible reports of Haitians eating pets. But J.D. Vance, who wants to be vice president of the United States, keeps bringing it up.
In early September last year, before the vice presidential debate even happened, Kimmel started framing Trump's pick of J.D. Vance as a huge mistake. Not in the abstract, not in the way pundits talk when they are trying to sound wise, but with jokes that people could repeat to their friends without pulling up a chart.
When CNN asked Vance's office why he is pushing such a blatant lie, they said, Senator Vance has received a high volume of calls and emails over the past several weeks from concerned citizens in Springfield. His tweet is based on what he is hearing from them.
Oh, he's getting calls. I didn't know he was getting calls. Now it makes sense. I guess all you have to do to get J.D. Vance to start spreading crazy things around is make calls.
It was the kind of pregame read that sets a tone, a reminder that charisma is a skill, not a hat, and that politics favors people who can sit under the lights and make sense on the first try.
Tylenol. It's been overwhelming. I've heard from a lot of people over the last 6 days. I've heard from all the people in the world over the last 6 days. Everyone I have ever met has reached out 10 or 11 times. Weird characters from my past are the guy who fired me from my first radio job in Seattle, where we are not airing tonight, by the way. Sorry, Seattle. His name is Larry. In 1989, Larry tried to force me to do a bit called Jokes for Donuts, where people would call in with a joke and I would give them donuts. I refused to do it, and then I made a lot of fun of Larry for suggesting it, and eventually Larry fired me, and I had to move back in with my parents. But even he wrote in to cheer me up. Thank you, Larry, and I want to thank everyone who checked in. I would take all week to list all of them, but some that I do especially want to mention are my fellow late-night talk show hosts, my friend Stephen Colbert. You found him themselves in this predicament. My friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, John Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out.
Kimmel made Vance the punchline before Vance ever sat behind a debate lectern. That matters because late night is where expectations get set for casual viewers. You clip a line on Instagram, you throw it on TikTok, and now 1 million people walk into the debate expecting a guy who looks like he is playing pretend.
Vice President Maybelline was making the rounds, attempting to defend his boss and the chairman of the FCC with a new fairy tale even a 5-year-old wouldn't believe.
Celebrities are rallying to his cause, saying this is a First Amendment assault being carried out by the FCC, Brendan Carr, and by the President of the United States himself. And to that you say?
Well, there are two things. First of all, I'd like them to tell me exactly what Brendan Carr did to have Jimmy Kimmel taken off the air, because number one, he is currently on the air, and to the extent that he isn't in certain stations, it's because he's not funny and because his ratings aren't very good.
I have some good news for you, J-Dog. We're back on all the stages.
Perception is not everything, but it is the first 6 inches of every fight. Then came the debate. Kimmel did not just roast the performance, he produced it. He replayed the moments that felt slippery and slowed them down until the evasions were obvious. He highlighted the exchanges where Governor Tim Walz had a clean answer while Vance spoke in circles, then cut between them until you could feel the difference in your gut.
Tradition of meddling where they shouldn't under many administrations, but it wasn't always like this. There was an FCC commissioner back in 2022 who worked under Joe Biden who was spot on. He wrote, "President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship." You know who wrote that? FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr.
The beauty of a good late-night breakdown is that you do not need a political science degree. You need eyes and ears. Kimmel would set up a clip with one sentence, let it roll, pause on the face Vance makes when he knows the follow-up is coming, and then drop a line that you could hear echoing in living rooms across the country. You laughed, but you also learned, because the edit taught you where the gap between confidence and competence lives. Kimmel did not pull this out of thin air.
Sometimes I wonder in what world is the Vice President of the United States calling into a giant-toothed podcast host to badmouth me and the people who watch this show?
There are these judges. Judge Boasberg comes to mind. Lots of judges who are trying to basically say the president can't exercise the powers of the presidency. You're an attorney. How do you assess the legal battles here?
Yeah, I bet all those judges are huge fans of Jimmy Kimmel, by the way. But I think, Vince, that, one, we have an appeals process.
Vance carried a backpack full of quotes that told on him before he ever got the nomination. The childless cat lady's comment was not a meme born in a vacuum. It was a view into the way he talks about voters when he thinks he is rallying the faithful. Kimmel sat that phrase right next to footage of real people doing real work, and he let the ugliness sit there without raising his voice. That is his trick. He does not have to scream. He just points and waits. Audiences are better at connecting dots than politicians give them credit for.
First of all, Kimmel was taken off the air because he had low ratings, because the late night talk show host model was not doing particularly well, and let's be honest, because he had become so politically unhinged that I think he wasn't particularly funny. Now, the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, put out a couple of tweets, but the government took no action. We did literally nothing to try to take Jimmy Kimmel off the air. We believe in free speech. We also believe in the right of a television station or a network to cancel somebody because of low ratings.
When you put contempt on the screen next to an ordinary life, the contempt shrinks. It does not read as toughness. It reads as a man reaching for a cheap laugh in a room that expects better. By the time Kimmel finished his post-debate run, the shape of Vance's television persona had settled. He was the guy who looked better on paper than under pressure. He was the guy who could talk a paragraph and say nothing that survives a replay. He was the guy who tried to surf a culture war and wiped out the second anyone asked about a bill, a budget, or a ballot.
Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American. And it is so...
This is where Kimmel's format cuts deepest. You cannot outshout a cutaway. You cannot roll your eyes at the pause button. When a host builds a 2-minute montage of your contradictions, you either own them or you watch them go viral without you. Here is your early nudge to fuel the algorithm. If you are watching this live, hit subscribe right now and leave one sentence about the Vance moment that changed your mind, because this channel survives on receipts and your comments decide which receipts we pull next.
Hi, I'm Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. The mainstream media, they want you to think that I'm weird. They call me creepy, cringy, awkward, that I give people something called the ick. They want you to think that I can't order a simple donut.
The story did not stop with the debate. It grew teeth this fall when Kimmel's show ran into a storm and came back sharper. You remember the week. The show went dark after a controversy blew up around remarks tied to a political shooting story. The pressure was loud, the threats were louder, and the message from the usual suspects was simple: silence the comedian.
And so one of the takeaways is not just that the Republican Party base is somehow fundamentally flawed in a way that's unique in American political history. It's that Trump is a really bad candidate and, frankly, I think a really bad person.
What happened next was the opposite of silence. Civil liberties groups spoke up. Artists spoke up. The audience did what it always does when power leans on a joke. It leaned back. Kimmel returned to the desk with a grin that said, "Thank you for the plot twist, because now the monologue writes itself." He took direct aim at the politicians who had tried to paint him as reckless while spending their days spinning fantasies for clicks, and he put J.D. Vance in that frame.
How long you worked here?
A year.
Okay. Donut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which donut, though?
Just whatever makes sense. No pickles. Hold the pickles.
Oh, well, no, I can get that for you.
A man who talks like an enforcer 1 minute and like a hall monitor the next, depending on who is in the room. It is not a coincidence that Kimmel went straight at Vance in that comeback run. Vance had already carved out a brand as the voice who jumps on camera to wag a finger at the left while forgiving sins on the right that would have made his grandparents blush.
And I think it's a little bit rich. The second point I make, Rashad, is it's a little bit rich for people to say that somehow we're engaged in censorship when literally every day, including yesterday, we found out that Google and YouTube were censoring information at the height of COVID at the direction of the Biden administration. So if we're looking for real sources of the government driving censorship, we should be looking at the policies of the Biden administration. We absolutely reject censorship in the Trump administration. We don't want to prevent anybody from speaking their mind, but if a TV station wants to cancel a guy because he's not funny, that's their business.
That hypocrisy is catnip in late night. Kimmel cut together a sequence of Vance scolding comedians and journalists, then followed it with Vance soft-pedaling bigotry from the people who claim to speak for the party. He did not need to editorialize. The tape did the talking. You could feel the audience recognize the pattern. When your outrage has a party ID, it is not outrage. It is marketing.
A lot of pressure on J.D. Vance tonight. J.D. Vance hasn't been under a microscope like this since his wife asked him why the couch was so sticky. But Trump had good advice. He told him, just have fun. And you know what? It seems like he did.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
That's how you get the single cat ladies back on your side.
Kimmel's best work with Vance lives in the contrasts. He sets Vance's sermons next to the debris field of his alliances. He plays a clip where Vance goes high and mighty about family values, then cuts to the moment he shrugs off cruelty as kids being kids, even when those kids are not kids at all.
Look, it's just me, Jimmy, the chairman of the FCC, gently suggesting that you gently shut the up.
But you can't say that. That's a violation of free speech.
Oh yeah, about that. Speech, it ain't free no more.
What? It's not free no more?
Yeah, we're charging by the word now.
You're charging by the word? How much are you charging?
Depends on what you want to say. Like, you want to say something nice about the president's beautiful thick yellow hair, or how he can do his makeup better than any broad. That's free.
He puts a quote about dignity next to a chuckle at a slur. He lets the contradictions touch, and he gives them a name. Not courage, not conviction, convenience. Viewers do not have patience for convenience dressed up as principle. They know it when they see it. They live with the consequences of it.
They call me creepy, cringy, awkward, that I give people something called the ick. They want you to think that I can't order a simple donut.
What makes Kimmel especially dangerous to a candidate like Vance is the tone. He is not a prosecutor pounding the lectern. He is the neighbor who cracks a joke you cannot shake. That kind of joke is more destructive than a shouting match. It turns your talking points into a punchline that people carry to work the next morning. You can fight a headline. You cannot fight a line that readers turn into their own. That is why Vance and his team keep trying to change the subject whenever the late-night clips land.
What the did you just say?
My mother.
We are definitely not driving back. The brunt of the effect of the shutdown, it will be felt right here in New York. To punish you for disliking him, Trump is putting $18 billion worth of New York City infrastructure projects, like the new rail tunnels under the Hudson and the 2nd Avenue subway project, on hold to make sure the money isn't being used to support Apparently they think trans stands for transportation over there, and they want to stop it. This is clearly an abuse of power to punish the city. The New York City infrastructure projects are not supposed to be delayed because Trump wants to strong-arm Democrats into cutting health care. They're supposed to be delayed because they're New York City infrastructure projects.
There is also a thing that happens to politicians who try to surf comedy with grievance. They look smaller. When you go after a host for telling a joke, you invite the audience to watch the joke again. When you threaten the platform, you invite the platform to bring out the parade of past clips that make the threat look like a confession.
I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects. Some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it. And thanks. For telling their followers that our government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about change.
His pledge of authenticity has been replaced with...
Kimmel's team knows that rhythm. They have been doing it since 2017, when the healthcare monologue taught America how to measure policy against a human life. They learned then that the fastest way to beat a gaslight is to find the light switch and leave it on. They have been doing that with Vance since he stepped onto the national stage. Here is your mid-roll call to action.
Adam's store today. Adam Schiff might be the only person who dislikes Donald Trump more than Melania. According to the annual World Happiness Report, Americans are less happy than ever. The U.S. now ranks 24th on the happiest list. They say it is our lowest ranking since they've been measuring. Yeah, no.
If you are part of this community that values the long cut over the hot take, subscribe, Share this with one friend who pretends late night does not matter, and tell me which Vance line you want us to freeze frame next. Because repetition is how spin dies, and your suggestions decide which loops we run.
Why are you even ranking us? Leave us alone. Are you happy? I'll kill you. That's how happy I am. Finland was the happiest. Finland was #1, followed by Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and the Netherlands. This chart should...
There is a bigger point here about how television decides winners and losers. Vance came packaged as the working-class whisperer, the son of a struggling town who knows how to translate pain into policy. That pitch dies the second a camera captures condescension. You cannot talk down about people's lives and then ask them to believe you see them. You cannot build a brand on toughness and then rely on safe rooms when a comedian says your name out loud.
I don't get it. How can something like this happen under the president who's done more for black people than Abraham Lincoln? It makes no sense. It's been an exciting week for Fox News. Trump squatted down for a 2-part chat with Laura Ingraham. They covered a wide range of subjects, including his son Barron.
Kimmel understands that better than most politicians do. He actively looks for the moments where the brand and the behavior do not match. He cuts them together until the brand falls apart. The present day tag on this story is almost too on the nose. As the cycle turned this week, Vance decided to downplay a leak that showed racist and anti-Semitic messages swirling in a group tied to his own political base.
You talked the other day about how music was your aptitude as a child. But is Barron's aptitude, in your view, business or politics?
Maybe technology. He can look at a computer. I'd try turning off his car, turn it off. I'd turn off his laptop. I said, oh, good. And I go back 5 minutes later, he's got his laptop. I said, how'd you do that? None of your business, Dad. No, he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology.
He shrugged and said kids do stupid things, even though the people in question were adults who should have known better long before they had a password. That kind of wink keeps campaigns happy for a day, but it feeds late night forever. You can already feel the monologue forming. A split screen with the sermon on one side and the shrug on the other.
Happy birthday. He likes computers, and he's tall. That's pretty much all he knows about Barron. Back to this interview with Laura, though. It's fun to see two people together on TV with the same hairstyle. It really is. After their sit-down, Trump gave Laura a private tour of the White House. She got to see where they're paving over the Rose Garden. He got to see all the tacky new gold stuff in the Oval Office, and she saw Trump's newly obtained copy of the Declaration of Independence.
A headline about family values above a quote about boys being boys. A closing line that puts a bow on the whole thing without raising a voice. Kimmel will not need to invent anything. He will press play, and the room will do the rest. What makes this all feel inevitable is that Vance is running a character written for a different era. He thinks the camera will forgive a sarcasm that used to pass for grit. It does not.
Well, good news, it's over. The idea behind this is to let the states come up with their own educational standards. For instance, from here on, in order to receive a high school diploma in Florida, all you have to do is complete the maze on the back of the kids' menu at Fuddruckers.
The camera forgives honesty. It forgives the I was wrong and here is why. It does not forgive the smirk that asks for a pass, because audiences have seen too much to accept the smirk as charm. Kimmel's show has spent years training people to notice that difference. They know when a joke is a shield and when it is a scalpel. They know when a guest is playing coy and when a senator is hoping the desk will move on.
Right. But if you try to taser a cop on the steps of the Capitol, we've got your back. Don't worry about that. Everyone needs to just crack open a Bud Light and relax already. Even the vice president took a break from pumping his ottoman to complain about not just me, you.
This audience does not move on. They clip, they share, they save. They tag their friends and add the exact timestamp where the smile fades. So, yes, Jimmy Kimmel exposed J.D. Vance on live TV, and not because he hates him, but because Vance built a public life on the kind of rhetoric that melts when you hold it over a light.
On Jimmy Kimmel's television program and on The Daily Show this week, you have audiences outright cheering, seeing the images of Teslas on fire across the country. And I saw that and I thought,
Man, that really is a sign of how much the left has conditioned people to think that that's acceptable.
Yeah, though I will say in defense of the American people, Jimmy Kimmel's show is so unfunny and boring and left-wing that it's probably not a representative sample. If you go to a Jimmy Kimmel live viewing, you have to really be a humorless scold.
Kimmel is the light. He has the patience to sit there and wait for the wax to drip. He has the platform to do it while the country is still awake. He has the discipline to make the point with humor instead of rage, which is always more lethal to a brand that sells toughness. Vance can keep trying to run the same play, picking fights with hosts and pretending the laughter is bias. It will not help. Laughter is not bias. It is the sound the audience makes when the mask slips.
Did you hear what he just called you? He called you humorless scolds. What is wrong with you people? Are you trying to make JD's mascara run? What's going on? A humorless scold. Who talketh like that? Archbishop of Canterbury? What? Go on.
There are these judges. Judge Boasberg comes to mind. Lots of judges who are trying to basically say that the president can't exercise the powers of the presidency. You're an attorney. How do you assess the legal battles here?
Yeah, I bet all those judges are huge fans of Jimmy Kimmel, by the way, but I think, Vince, that, one, we have an appeals process.
We are going to keep tracking this because it is not done. Vance will feed the format every time he goes on air with a sermon he cannot defend. Kimmel will keep cutting it down to size because that is the job. The lights are not turning off. The clips are not going away. The receipts will keep piling up until even the people who want to look away cannot. Subscribe now for more such video.